So this is actually the first video I'll be making on Morbius, and I'll explain why as to why I haven't made a video on Morbius so far. But the one I'm going to be looking at is what the hell is Sony doing with Morbius, because there are definitely a lot of questions about this movie, especially after Spider-Man No Way Home. So if you enjoyed the video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content. I will be talking about the plot and the ending to Spider-Man No Way Home. So if you have not seen Spider-Man No Way Home yet, do not watch this video, or just be warned that there are spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home in this video. Again, spoiler warning for Spider-Man No Way Home. So some of you might already be familiar with just some of the weirdness that's going on with Morbius, right? So in the Morbius trailers that we've seen so far, first of all, we got an in-your-face reference to Venom at the end of the second trailer where he says, "I am Venom, whatever." So clearly, Tom Hardy's Venom is canon to the Morbius universe, alright? That's thing number one. Thing number two, and this one is kind of more slight, is that when it kind of pans over the city in the Morbius trailer, we see Oscorp, an Oscorp tower / building. So that means Oscorp exists in the universe in which Morbius takes place. That's number two. Number three is that Spider-Man exists in the Morbius universe, because in the first trailer we saw it in 2, there was a poster of Spider-Man with murderer written on it. Now there's two things about this though. The first thing is that the Spider-Man that was in the poster was very clearly ripped from the Spider-Man PS4 game, which is neither here nor there, especially if they're using it as a placeholder. But then what's interesting about it though is, even though it was ripped from the Spider-Man PS4 game, the suit that they chose to wear was the Raimi suit. Now, the reason why this is interesting is because, from what I can remember, because it was a while ago, the first Morbius trailer did not come out until after Spider-Man Far From Home, which is why they showed a poster in the trailer that had murderer written on it. But after Spider-Man Far From Home came out, they had the Far From Home suit in the Spider-Man PS4 game. So why couldn't they have just used the Far From Home suit in the Spider-Man PS4 game to use for that poster render, if that's the Spider-Man that they were referring to? And the reason why I'm saying that Tom Holland Spider-Man is who they're clearly referring to is, obviously that's the only Spider-Man we know of who is even possibly classified as a murderer, because obviously people thought he murdered Mysterio. So that in and of itself is kind of a double whammy, because on one hand it's the Raimi suit rendered from the PS4 game, but on the other hand it has murderer written on it, which implies Tom Holland's Spider-Man after the events of Far From Home. So I don't even know what point I was making. I think that was point number 3. So then number 4 is we see in the trailer that he interacts with the Vulture, Michael Keaton's Vulture, and he's wearing the same white jumpsuit that he wears in the post-credit scene and / at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, therefore implying that Morbius takes place in the MCU. So we got multiple things. Here's what's crazy, is we have multiple things implying Morbius takes place in the MCU, and now we have multiple things implying Morbius does not take place in the MCU. So now the argument is, what the hell is Sony doing? That's the main point that I'm getting at. So obviously, the Vulture and the murderer written over the Spider-Man poster implies that he's in the MCU. But then we learn in No Way Home, and obviously from the post-credit scene of Venom Let There Be Carnage, that Venom did not take place originally in the MCU, like there was at least some speculation, and that the MCU is actually a different universe that Venom got transported into, right? But then also we learn at the end of No Way Home that all of the villains that got transported to the MCU from their respective universes, they got transported back at the very end, including in the post-credit scene Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock, albeit he leaves a part of the symbiote behind. So all of the villains are back in their respective universes. So if Morbius takes place in the MCU, number one, Venom doesn't exist in the MCU right now, I should say, at least in the time frame that we're expected that Morbius takes place. And number two, it's definitely not Tom Hardy's Venom, even if Venom did exist, because, and obviously Tom Hardy's Venom is who Morbius is referencing when he says, "We are," or "I am Venom," what have you. Now let's talk about Oscorp, right? Because we also learned from Spider-Man No Way Home, and it was honestly a strange decision. It is kind of weird to think about, but we'll see how they deal with it and where they take it. But we learned that Oscorp does not exist in the MCU whatsoever. At first, people speculated that, maybe they don't reference Oscorp like that because it's a Sony property, and, maybe it'll be revealed in No Way Home that Oscorp bought Avengers Tower or something like that. But we learned from Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, after he researched it, I guess, that Oscorp does not exist in the MCU. So therefore, there cannot be an Oscorp Tower in the MCU, which we see in the Morbius trailer. So again, what's going on with Sony? So my honestly bet, and we have to reach for this a little bit, right? I think there's the potential, especially after Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm not even trying to get like my hopes up or anybody else's hopes up or anything like that, but there's a potential that Morbius takes place in the Venom Sonyverse, right? But that Spider-Man exists in this Venom Sonyverse. I've seen some people say that they want Andrew Garfield to be the Spider-Man of the Venom Sonyverse in the Morbius universe, which I would not mind whatsoever either. And it would be a good thought because he's still relatively young, right? He could continue being Spider-Man for a little bit if they wanted to bring him back. So there's that, right? And for the most part, this would answer at least a good amount of questions, right? That would be able to answer why Morbius is able to reference Venom, because they take place in the same universe. It would kind of explain the murderer. It wouldn't explain the Sam Raimi suit, but it would kind of explain the murderer thing over the poster, because Andrew Garfield said in Spider-Man No Way Home that he became rage-filled after Gwen died. He stopped pulling his punches. So maybe Spider-Man was going around simply killing people because of his rage after he lost Gwen. So that's potential. That's the potential as well. Now, the only thing it doesn't really explain is Michael Keaton's Vulture, right? But at the same time, especially with Loki and stuff, they've already begun to explain different variants and stuff like that across different universes. So it's very possible, and I don't know if I would like this that much, especially since he was wearing like the white jumpsuit, that's the exact same one that he was wearing at the end of Homecoming. It's possible that Michael Keaton's Vulture could be a variant of himself. So he's still the Vulture and everything, but he's just the variant that exists in the Sony universe. But I digress with all of this now. That's basically all I have to talk about with Morbius. As far as to why I haven't made Morbius videos in the past as well, truth be told, I don't really agree with some of the decisions that Sony is making in regards to their Sonyverse, Venomverse. I do think they've made some good decisions, but a lot of it is honestly storytelling-wise. I haven't 100% agreed with their storytelling-wise, so I'm not chomping at the bits to go see Morbius. I'm still going to go see it as soon as it comes out, but I'm kind of let down by the Sonyverse at this point, for me personally. So comment down below if you're excited with Morbius, or comment also if you think they might be doing something weird and specific with Morbius and what more universe you think Morbius takes place in. But I appreciate you for watching the video.